No, I'll take it off.
I'm letting her try the headphones on first, guys. Yeah, I just lit it. We're recording now. Everybody, this is Bethany Butler.
Hey,
Yes.
Bethany Gabriel.
Bethany
No.
Gabriel. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's weird. I actually haven't even changed my name yet, so
Mhm.
technically you're not wrong. It's a process.
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, it's a lot. It's a goal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people don't get to experience in life. Now I think about it, I realize that like a lot of people don't
Yeah.
get married. You know.
It's true. It's as cool as I thought it would be, honestly.
You said, well, when I saw you the other day, you said about how you're getting used to being married.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the things, like kind of like in a relationship too. Like you gotta get used to being in a relationship, but then marriage is a whole nother step that you have to get used to as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, both sides of it, because in some ways it just feels like you're continuing on. It's just you've kind of gone through this hoop of matrimony, but we didn't live together before we were married, and so I'm getting used to that, like sharing a space, and we're in an apartment. So we're sharing the bathroom, all the typical stuff,
sharing
like
everything.
there's beard hairs everywhere, or like I'm never alone in the bed now. That threw me off. There was one point where I was like, there's just always someone next to me now.
And that's how it's gonna be for the rest of your life, essentially.
But oh god, it's amazing. It kind of reminds me when I explain it to people. Do you remember like maybe like your freshman year of college, or like when you had like a crew, or like that one person maybe that you hang out with every day?
Yes.
Like, oh, Caleb's here, like this person's there with them. It reminds me of like my freshman year of college when me and my best friend we'd go everywhere together. We'd do everything together. It's so fun.
In the same sense, it's like you're in a new world, like because you leave and go to college, and then you have that one person you stick with that you just that knows you know them.
Yeah.
And it's like you're gonna go through some shit together, but it's like as long as you have that person with you.
Dude, the aspect of oneness like really freaked me out during premarital counseling, because we did the whole thing where you go to class and you meet other engaged couples, and you get a discount if you do the class.
Hey.
Yeah, you like take it to the like office, and there you can get I don't know, it's like $60 off. It's pretty nice. But we got married before we finished the class, so we didn't even get it. But like we talked about like.
So did y'all need the class then?
Yes.
We did.
Emotionally. Marriage is like probably one of the best things, but also one of the hard things. And what do I know? I've been married 3 months now. But
you just more than other people can say. I mean, so
it's definitely the aspect of oneness. Because your whole life, you think like, who am I? What do I do? Like you're working on this identity of yourself, and all of a sudden there's this other person in the picture, and it's what is y'all's identity together. Like you move as one. The Bible puts it, you're one flesh now. And like a lot of premarital counseling was like, what does that mean? And it's been a beautiful thing to understand, because it feels like you're getting to know yourself even more, because marriage will quickly, like, it'll bring the ugly out. I realized how selfish I was and how prideful I was being in certain things, but it's a humbling experience for sure.
How was it engaging with the other engaged couples in the class?
It was cool. It was like we were getting married really quick. Kind of like I said, we didn't even get to finish the class really. But a lot of because it's also for seriously dating people. So people could do it who weren't even engaged yet. So one like couple was seriously dating. One of them got engaged actually right before we left for our honeymoon, and then it was us and our group. And then there's like I don't know, 30 other couples, but that was our like small group. But it was cool because everyone has questions. Everyone has different backgrounds. Counseling was emotional at some points because they kind of walk you through like financial conversations, all the things you don't think about you need to talk about before marriage. They like walk you through it. And it was through my church, so obviously it's all like a Christian perspective. But there was one week where we talked about like communication, and it just brought up some really raw emotions, not even with Taylor, just my family, like me and my mom, and like some of the hurt that I had with like just being misunderstood or like not being able to go over these hurdles in communication. I was like, oh my gosh, what if this happens to us? Like, what if this follows me into my marriage? So it like it brings up stuff that you talk about, which is definitely like a God thing. Like, he intervened in those like conversations to like bring stuff out.
So in some sense, it was couples counseling,
Yes.
but you also got an individual, like almost like a one-on-one life lesson kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was interesting. It
Was
was hard.
Was there any like, before you got into it, was there any like I don't want to say like shame, but was there any like in your mind of like, do we really need to do this, or kind of like, like who really does this kind of stuff, kind of thing?
Kind of. It was definitely because when you get up to like the doorstep of marriage, you definitely start wondering a little bit like, am I ready? Like, are we gonna do this? And so it felt good. For the most part, it felt good to have people next to us and like surround ourselves with people who are doing the same thing. Because it's nerve-wracking. You definitely don't want to do that alone.
Do you think one thing that I would wonder about in those situations is trying to curb any like comparison between a couple and another? Was there any of that in that at all? Like, did you see any of that between like other couples and stuff?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's like funny stuff. Like, one of the very first things we did was like an icebreaker. And it was like, how well do you know? It was just like a little fun thing. And you know, we're all like looking at each other like, oh, he didn't know her favorite coffee flavor. Like, are they gonna make it? Like, it was a little tense at first, and like, oh, he doesn't know her favorite color. Yeah.
This ain't gonna last.
Yeah. It was funny, but a little bit, maybe on a deeper level, like, I don't know. For the most part, it was so fast and furious. You didn't have time. You didn't have time to think about people next to you.
You just kind of, you're focused on what you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And you listen to each other, and like, there's a little bit of discussion. Some people, when they do premarital counseling, they just do it with another couple. So it's like 2-on-2. But I definitely think there was an aspect of like growth to the class. Because it was a 2-hour class every Tuesday. And it was like 1 hour of like lecture. Like, we like went through a book and walked us through like scripture and stuff of that nature. And then we had like discussion time.
Do you feel like through the engagement classes and premarital counseling that you got because we talked about this when we saw each other the other day, do you think you got a different sense of what the Bible was trying to tell you?
Oh my gosh, yes. When we got to aspects of like roles in the marriage, that was a big one. It like, I'll quickly run you through like the coolest things that I found, but like, it talks about leadership, and it gave me a biblical definition of submission, which is not a popular word nowadays.
No.
And basically, my favorite thing that I learned was this aspect of the biblical translation of the helper. And so when Eve was created, God was saying, I need to create you a helper. And he's only used that in 3 places in the Bible. One, he's describing the woman. And then I think one of them was Jesus. And then the other one was the Holy Spirit. And so it kind of put this like women empowerment, which is not a, like something you hear a lot from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot because it was such a different time. You know, people talk about prescriptive and descriptive, these things that the Bible is talking about, like you shouldn't do this. This was what was happening at the time period, the difference between those two.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such a like a powerful, it made me realize my opportunity as a woman to be a helper in a positive sense, in the way that I can look at Christ and the Holy Spirit and have them as my guides and aim to be like them. And like, if Christ and the Holy Spirit are helpers, why should I not be a helper? Like, why would I be above Jesus Christ or the Holy Spirit? You know?
Yeah.
It was a very like humbling and like honoring realization. It was beautiful.
Cause you said submission, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ! I want to get canceled down." Not this early in my podcast, not yet. But no, like you hit the nail on the head. Where like submission is like one of those words. It's like it's a knee-jerk reaction word nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, even then, God, the word God is a knee-jerk reaction word too. And yeah, because that just goes into the kind of like the over-encompassing of what I've been trying to talk about in my podcast lately. It's mainly just hitting on the you're here for the. I'll say you're here for one thing, but you're here just to talk. But it's kind of like when we started talking, we got on that religious, spiritual, and just almost the universal sense of your role in this life kind of thing. As both as a woman, but also as an individual.
Yeah.
You know? And because we were talking about, I hit on the numerology and the birthdays for a second. Yeah. First of all, we're both Pisces, you know, a little fish, you know what I'm saying? And then, I said life path number 6.
I think so, yeah. That's what you read.
And it's funny, very devoted to relationships.
Yeah.
And, well, because you were talking about finding, and just in life, everybody's trying to find some sense of balance, you know?
Yeah.
And just realizing, then everybody realizes that anything is a form of give and take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of being able to just choose what you want to give and take, honestly.
Yeah.
And something that you're in a situation where you're comfortable in giving and taking.
Yeah.
But because some people aren't ready to give and some people aren't ready to receive either. And I think that's a harder thing to admit than just because we'd rather try to figure it out, you know, and figure it out while we're in it rather than just take a step back, work on ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. So how long did y'all date before y'all got engaged?
It was like August of 2021. It was like a year and a few months. We got engaged November 11th of 2022.
Okay.
So not too long.
I was about to say, it's like... So at what point would you say, like, y'all knew?
Pretty early. I definitely knew I loved him in the first, like, month. It was like... Our story, just in general, like, this idea of, like, bringing back, because we were working together, and then kind of he got promoted right after I, like, joined in this job, and so we were both dating people at the time, too, and we re-met at a different job. So it was just, like, running back into each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those, like, oh, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be kind of things.
Go with the flow kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this sounds so cheesy, but, like, on the first date, like, it felt like I had known him forever. And, like, I had kind of, like, known him as, like, an acquaintance, but, like, when we really got to talking about our lives and, like, our first date was long. It was, like, 12 hours long.
What? A half a day first date?
Yeah. It was, like, it just kept going and kept going.
That's a drive to Florida.
Yeah. It was so fun.
What y'all you doing at 12? Actually, no, never mind. But
I'll go through it. It's a good story.
Oh, a 12-hour date? Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, I had decided I was going to get a boyfriend that summer. Which reminds me of how, do you remember in high school when, I just remember, so you were the grade above me.
Yes.
And I remember I like dropped money on the ground one day. And you like came up and you like picked it up and you like handed it to me.
I remember.
And
exactly.
I immediately turned around. I was like, I have a boyfriend. And
This was a running joke for about a good 3-4
Literally.
years. Of
And then
like anytime I was like, hey Bethany, I have a boyfriend. She'd be like, we had class together too. It'd be some shit like you drop a pencil, like, hey, here's I have a boyfriend. And I was like, I'm going to McDonald's with my shit. It's like $5. It's like $5 or something. I'm going to McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? That's when memes first became big too, as well.
Yes.
Like when we were little, we were baby. Dang, it's crazy to think how we were just babies back then.
I know.
You know?
I know.
We still are in a sense.
I'm definitely one of those people that like, I think I'm gonna hit my prime in my 30s. That's
Why say that?
I don't know. I'm excited about my 30s.
Oh,
But
dead ass. No, like power to that. Honestly, because someone was talking about today. He was like, one of my coworkers. He was memeing, but he's like, Caleb, dang, are you 24, bro? You turning 25 next year? Dang, man, you gonna be on that backstretch, bro. I'm like,
I hate
I'm
when
like,
people say that.
backstretch. I'm like, bro, it's only.
No.
I'm getting started.
No. Okay,
Like,
so I work with a bunch of like elderly people, and when they have the mindset, like I think one of them, I mean, and you hear so many stories when you work. That's why I love client work. I love like one-on-one with people.
That's literally what your life path
I
number
know.
said.
And it's just like the people that come in, and one of the ladies, like I think her husband had passed, and so she was talking a little bit about that, and like it's such an honor when people like open up and tell me about their lives. On top of that, they're trusting me to help them stretch. I feel like I should explain what I do.
Oh, go
So
ahead.
I'm a one-on-one, I'm basically a personal trainer for stretching. And so it's an honor for people to trust me on the bench and help them stretch and make themselves better. And then on top of that, they share their life with me and tell me like really deep things about what they've understood in their personal life and in their walk. And it's just a cool experience. But the people that come in that are like, yeah, my husband passed away and I turned 60 and I realized that life expectancy is like till I'm 80. Like I have so many more years of life left. Like I can't just sit around and let my body
Deteriorate.
waste away. And so these people that have a mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm still going. And my great grandma, she turned 100 this May.
She's still rocking and rolling?
She's still rocking and rolling.
Did she walk still?
Yeah.
Really?
We had to take her car away from her at like 96.
She was still driving at 96?
Yes.
With a legal license?
I'm so glad I have her genes. But yeah, just like having that mindset even helps. Like your 30s, like you're not even a third of the way through your life yet.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of that mindset that there's more.
Yeah.
You know, and that there's, even though that's kind of what I've been at now too, like with overall just mental health for people, and kind of, I'll say people, I'm talking about my own as well.
Yeah.
But also just realizing that there's more than just what you're in at the time, you know, and we can always strive to be better, but we got to take that step, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of same thing with like, for instance, going to like premarital counseling of like, you don't have to do it, you know. It's nobody's forcing you to, but you reap the benefits after going through it, you know.
Yeah.
So now, so we were talking about that like with the life path number and everything, and so you got into. We talked about how you got into that kind of side of like spirituality, and then how you kind of curved back and then came back around to just boom right back to Christianity.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was probably something stupid like a TikTok. I just saw something and I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Was it like a numerology or like an astrology thing?
This was a medium. I was watching. It's a guy that does like. Oh, there's a name. I don't know if it's a show, but he's a medium and he sits in the car. He's an Uber driver or a cab driver or something.
Mm-hmm.
And people come get in the car and he like does a reading. And I was just watching it and I was like, I don't know how this falls into my belief system. And it got me thinking like, because he was obviously like getting his ideas. He was talking to something.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever he was talking to was like telling him really personal stuff about these people that he just met. And, you know, the show might be rigged, whatever. But if I take it for what it is, what I'm seeing, then he's definitely getting information from somewhere. And I started digging into the Bible a little bit and like what it said about mediums. And, you know, it kind of goes back to that like prescriptive and descriptive of like commandments and stuff that have been said in the Bible, like, oh, you shouldn't do this anymore. I've outlawed this. You need to destroy. And so, anyways, you see God against mediums throughout the Bible. And I was like, what's up with this? Like, who's he talking to? Like, how could he be like delivering good news? Or like, he seems like he's talking to gentle spirits.
What's
in
the
the
definition
nature.
of a medium?
I think someone who talks to dead people.
To Google. Because like, cause medium, obviously medium is in between the high and the low.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I couldn't imagine being a medium.
I couldn't either.
Like,
I don't know how it gets about. And that's what I started wondering. I was like, how do you like, I was like, how do you find yourself in this situation?
Well, there's sometimes where, you know, you can look at some people and tell what they're going through, where they've been,
Yeah.
you know? So sometimes, like, you can just kind of read people,
Yeah.
you know, and it kind of comes with knowing how to read people a little
Yeah.
bit. But then some people are just different and can just feel people's energy, you know?
Yeah.
And so I hate to say, like, the woo with, like, feeling people's energy. But it's a
Yeah.
thing, you know? I mean, like, case
I
point.
have a client that tells me about my aura every once in a while.
You know? Yeah, exactly. And kind of like same thing with like being married, you know, we all have an aura together that y'all have I say like gravity, you know, what I talked about like with astrophysics versus like God and stuff with the big G, and gravity is the thing that we don't see that's keeping everything together, but also there's a gravitational pull that you have on him and he has on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so kind of like, and in that same sense, kind of what pulls you to do certain things, i.e. even your career, the way you dress, there's a gravitational pull to who you really are, you know?
Yeah.
And some people go against the gravitational pull, you know? But you've realized that going with the flow is just so much easier than just fighting, you know? Fighting against what's for you because of what you want.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, it depends. Because there's definitely instances where I'm like, I can't go against the flow. Because like from a Christian perspective, you've got to be looking around like, what is the flow? Like what is happening around me? Like in the sense of like, yes, am I going with the flow, like will of God? Then yes, I can think about it like that. But like in a general sense, in a secular world, I can't go with the flow. I can go with the flow of like praying and not understanding what's happening and letting God lead. And you know, what does that look like? I mean, people throw that around all the time, like God's will, God's plan. But like this sense of like actually knowing, and that's why I find so much peace and joy of like, I worship who I believe to be the creator, who has a plan and loves me. And that's why I can go with the flow. Like, that's the only thing that would ever bring me peace in such a like chaotic world. And my identity. We talked about identity too when we ran into each other. Like, because I was talking to you about numerology and, you know, my story about the medium is just like, I got into this like mindset of like, what am I putting my identity into? And I put my identity into, numerology and like my sign and all of that. And I was like hungry for more of it constantly. I would like check my horoscope every day. It would like slowly just overtaking every single thought that I was having about other people too. Like that's what really scared me about horoscopes is like I would start having opinions on people before I even got to know them at all. Like it felt like I was being spiritual, but it was like a judgment almost. It was so weird. And I had to take a step back. I was like, I don't think I can find my identity in numerology and signs and find my identity in Christ. It's just they're too polar different. So, in a sense, I can go with the flow, but in another, I don't know. You gotta be aware.
Yeah, I was about to say, because like overall, the best word to say what you're describing is just a sense of an overall sense of awareness.
Yeah.
Of just, would you say for a person, it's just kind of knowing what's for you and what's not for you, kind of thing?
I think so. What do you think?
I think we live in a world that where we make it to where we want to try everything, you know, and give everything a chance.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of, because we kind of inherently know what's good for us and what's not good for us, you know, and even though we choose option A or option B, you know, we forget there's option C. And there's a bunch
How do we know, though? How do we know what's good and bad for us?
Maybe it's a sense of, I like to think that it's a sense of gratification and satisfaction. And just thinking are you actually gratified or satisfied with what you're doing, but also looking at what the purpose is of what you are doing, you know?
Yeah.
And everything has a, you know.
Purpose, that's a big word.
I was about to say, at the end of the day, it's always purpose, because everything serves a certain purpose, you know?
Yeah.
Whether or not it be me on my podcast or a nail holding this table together, you know what I mean? Like, there's a different, everything has a certain code to do something, you know? And like, for instance, I played football and I got injured a lot. You know what I'm saying? My body just wasn't built to do that.
I've always wondered about that. I've always wondered about like a sport where you're literally just sacrificing. Like, I've done sports. I did volleyball.
I was going to hit on this too, because we talked about this too.
You dive around on the ground, but like football is one of those sports where like I watch, like, I've seen people like jump up, like grab a ball and like just like feet don't catch them. They lay out for a ball. And I'm like, the dedication you have to just surrendering your body to fall for a ball. I don't think I could make my body do it.
And the crazy part is that it's unconscious or subconscious.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like I even done it in basketball, you know, of like running and just diving on a hardwood floor.
Yeah.
You know, not thinking like, or like diving into the stands where there's people sitting there, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like, oh, see ball, get ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was funny because talking about athletes and stuff, and I was thinking about it and how within just being an athlete, there's no bigger, I would say, sense of like collective belief system than when them being an athlete, especially in yourself, because you have an individual performance that you have to keep up while also relying on your teammates. And so there's a sense of belief and also like a belief system of knowing that you're good enough, but also that your teammates are good. And it's funny because there was a comedian who was I tied it to Christianity because here in Texas, you see after every sports game or before every sports game, all sports are praying, right? Yeah. And so I remember this comedian was talking about, and he was Middle Eastern. He said, "I'm Middle Eastern, and I used to play football, and I lived in Texas. And the first time I played football, I'm just paraphrasing right now, but he said, I got hit so hard that I saw Jesus. You know how hard you got to get hit to be another religion and see Jesus?" Like, and I was like, Yeah. And so going back to that with belief systems in general, versus, it's kind of religious versus a belief system of, I say non-religion. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I've seen so many different walks of life and different ideals, different belief systems,
Yeah.
and you think to yourself, I mean, you get told that there's one way that is the way,
Mm.
but you also know that there's a way that
Mm. Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things. I say maybe intuition almost.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I think that to a degree we need to trust our own intuition. You
Yeah.
know, what would you say?
Well, I'm gonna go back to your comment about knowing good and bad, because this is one of my favorite. This is like probably one of my favorite aspects of Christianity that I've like understood and held fast to, and been learning to hold fast to, because it's hard. But I actually believe that we don't have a good compass of what's good and bad because we're so finite. I might do this. I think I'm going to tie it to the new Spider-Man movie. Any movies that have to do with the multiverse, stuff happening, this like canon effect or whatever of like something's happening, you don't know how it's affecting something else. We're just so finite that I truly don't think that we know what's good and bad. Because what could feel bad for me is like good for me in the future. Kind of like pain of a workout, or I don't know, other stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I like to call that, I actually learned this from, I watched a movie called The Shack, and it was this crazy movie, so sad. It's about it's hard to watch kids get hurt, and so it's a movie about, something happens to this guy's kid, and he like goes and has this crazy experience at this shack, and he like meets with a personified version of Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. And one of the scenes was like talking with the Holy Spirit, and she was like, you think you know what's good and bad, and you want to have these discussions with people about what's good and bad, but that was never your job. That was never your purpose here on earth, not to know. That's God's job. Quit trying to play God. And it was just crazy, like, I never even thought that trying to have my own definition of good and bad would be me playing God. Because you hear that even in church all the time, like, don't do this, it's bad. Do this, it's good. Like, that was never a commandment in the Bible to decide what's good and bad. He said, love me and love others. And it changed my perspective on me and what I think is good, and like how I treat people, and
Purpose.
yeah.
And I thought about that too, of like, for some reason my mind went to the worst, and I thought about murderers. And I was thinking, because good and bad, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we all have a sense of good and bad.
Yeah.
But then you see people who act on things that are bad. I mean, who knows how many people think bad things on a daily basis?
Yeah.
But to actually act on those things, and it's stuff where it's like, it's very tragic, it's very sad, but it's also one of those things like, it is what it is kind of thing, and there's no way you can really go back in time to find a certain spot to change something that might have went wrong. Because just whatever happened just kind of happened.
Dude, you've got to watch this movie. I need you to watch this movie, and then we do another podcast, because we could talk about it the whole time. It's called The Shack.
The Shack?
Yes. It is. I don't want to be dramatic, but it was life-changing.
Really?
And because one of the scenes was about this dude that had this kid, something awful happened, and he meets with wisdom, like a personified version of wisdom, and she gives him this like scenario. In one part, it was like, I think he had been abused by his father, and so she like showed him being abused, and she was kind of like, if this man is bad, and then he showed his dad being abused, and he showed this like generational line of just like pain and hurt, and she was explaining like how, and she kind of took the perspective of God, and like, how do I choose between my children to send to hell and send to heaven? Like, look at all of this hurt that has happened over and over again. So you think your dad was a terrible, awful person for beating you. His dad beat him and was abused. And it was just this crazy, like that's why God sent Jesus, is because he couldn't choose which of his kids to save. So he sent his own son to take on the sins of the world, and that's the gospel.
Holy shit.
It was crazy.
Oh. Because it's just kind of encompassing everything I've, like, this whole entire overarching thing I've been on. Yeah. Of just what all I'm trying to talk about on my podcast. And there's no real, like, I'm trying to find the apex pinpoint of what I'm trying to talk about. Yeah. You know, and in general, it's just kind of like life, you know, in the sense of good, bad, evil, wrong. And with that, like, and you think about like animals, you know, like a lion eating a gazelle. Obviously, it looks horrible and everything, but the lion's got to eat. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And what else is the lion going to eat? Yeah. You know, but then just like the Lion King said, you know, I mean, we eat the antelope, and then the antelope eat the grass. And then when we die, our bodies, it's literally a circle of life, you know? And so it's just like there's a constant cycle of life that keeps going and going and going. Yeah. And I guess, and kind of in the same sense of what we're talking about, I see a world that is in the same cycle, you know? And then I'm being told to not do anything about it because I'm not supposed to, you know? I mean, maybe I was only here to talk about it, you know, and bring awareness to it, so then maybe other people can, you know, break out of whatever cycle they're in, you know, in order to really just kind of, I say fulfillment, but again, going back to satisfaction and gratification, you know. Yep. And I used to say satisfaction versus gratification, but I'm realizing you need both. Yeah. You know, you have to be satisfied with what, you don't have to be anything, but it's better to be satisfied with what you have, to be patient for what's going to gratify you in the future, because you know, just like you said with your older clients, because you know there's more out there, or you might not even know there's more out there. You believe. Remember how we talked about that? Was it that meme? Yeah, the video of how you can't know what you believe, and you can't believe what you know. And it's like, and the guy was like, "This is hurting my brain." It's like, no, you gotta, you just, and like, you don't. So would you say you know God, or you? Ooh,
it's a good question.
Or you believe in God?
I definitely believe in God. I think that I want to say that I know. Because when I think about knowing, you have to have proof, right? Mm-hmm. And I definitely have proof of blessings and proof of God intervening and bringing me where I'm supposed to be. And I guess since I haven't like seen Jesus or God, that's where faith comes in. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you were talking about other religions too, and like kind of going back to what you were saying about everyone knowing the way. Mm-hmm. And I think that I wish I had watched this video before I came, but someone from my church sent a video of this panel between this guy who practiced Judaism, another one Islamic, and then another one Christianity. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about God, like if they knew the same God or not. And I think what I've discovered, and like I may have to come back to you and be like, hey, I was totally wrong about this later.
Oh, that's perfect. Fine. Hey,
I like
admitting we're wrong just opens up to knowing more things.
I mean, I only know what I know right now.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know?
But it was just such a interesting concept that he was describing. Again, I didn't watch the video, but just this idea that, so the guy who was Islamic and the guy who was Jewish, practiced Judaism, would say that they knew the same God as the Christian did. But the Christian believed that, I think in the video he actually said that they do know the same God. But if you look at all these different religions, like, they practice very different things.
Exactly.
And I think it really comes down to, what is your definition? Like, I worship and know Yahweh. Like, that is.
And I was gonna bring up, because you said Yahweh, and I was like, a lot of people don't refer to Jesus as Yahweh, you know?
Yeah.
And gotta go. Come on.
I'll grab the keys.
Yeah, there was a kid. Is it a thunderstorm? No, there's ain't no thunderstorm out here.
Yeah. I thought it was so funny when I was driving over here, and it was like, severe weather alert, and it's sunny. And that's literally what we started talking about the other day at the store. You were like, it's crazy. It's all about perspective. It was raining and sunny, and I was like, it's happening again.
Yeah, it was like, it's raining and sunny. So I was like, how can I take anything seriously? I can take any one thing seriously, you know? I was like, and the rain and the sun together is so beautiful.
Dude, that is such a good, like, I love that perspective, because it reminds me of my, like, relationship with Christ and, like, the freedom in Christ that I found. Because, like, you have this freedom of not playing God. Like, you don't have to know everything. You can just know that you're resting in the presence of a God that does know everything. It's just, it's so much joy and peace. And, like, I feel like I'm truly beginning to understand that. Even though I've, like, I don't know, in prayer and meditation too, like, I've never really taken it seriously. Like, I talk to God like it's like a practice. And just like in spirituality and meditation, like, everything you do and everything you think, it all, like, piles on itself. Like, the music you listen to and just what you're meditating on, what you're thinking about, it really does. It affects everything. I'd really like to get better at praying and meditating. I know the other day you were like, don't.
Oh, no,
you
no.
Don't do it.
Oh, no. Like, there's prayer and meditation. I'm grabbing a book real quick. Everybody get a nice shot of my butt. Hold on. This book here, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind.
Cool.
Yeah, and so it discusses things like prayer, meditation. Like, on the back it says how your subconscious performs miracles in the everyday. And then it's funny because, where's that other book I had? Oh, there it is. Hold on. Give me 1 second, people. And so this book here.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that book, it talks about, it brings up prayer, it brings up meditation, and it overall brings up the power of your subconscious. And one of my coworkers had said something about it too, with, like, our just daily health and stuff. He said, think about it like this: you go every day just doing you every day, but subconsciously your mind has a checklist of what is wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, that's got to be, he just solved stress and anxiety.
Literally. You know what I mean? Like what's the movie? Inside Out?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Me too.
It was good because I was like, damn, that's really me, ain't it? Like, each time a little emotion comes up, and just for whatever little trigger, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of getting to that point of where, like, nothing really bothers you.
Yeah.
But we live in this world where they want stuff to bother us. You know what I mean? And it's like you have to pick a side with something.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, if you don't pick a side, then you're just one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, who is them?
Yeah.
You know? The last book I had was I got this the same day we started talking, actually.
Cool.
It was so it's apparently the book that helped end slavery in England.
Interesting.
And so the first, let's see. So a paraphrase in modern, so Real Christianity, a paraphrase in modern English of a practical view of the prevailing religious system of professed Christians in the higher and middle classes in this country, contrasted with that of real Christianity. Yeah, so I read that first line, I was like, what? And so, and this was written by William Wilberforce. This was way back then. He said, believed that slavery was wrong. And then in this book, he started to describe a people an authentic expression of Christian faith. In doing so, he changed the course of a nation and the world. In this modern paraphrase of contemporary classic, Bob Belts introduces you to a set of principles critical in living an authentic Christian life.
Interesting.
It said, as you read his passionate words, you find that Wilberforce's examination of what it means to have authentic faith in a time of cultural Christianity resonates strongly even today. Discover how the concepts of sin, evil, and depravity have been watered down, and find out how the essential beliefs of authentic Christianity have been distorted.
Interesting.
And so I was reading this, and I also had an astrology book open next to me. And so somebody came in, was talking to me, and come to find out, it was a pyramid scheme motherfucker. Yeah, he was like, in the way we were just having a conversation, because I'm sitting here I'm reading about astrology and Christianity.
Right.
Like, I'm on a different, I'm just on my own, right?
Right.
And he comes talking about like, just like belief systems and stuff, and he gets to you sound really ambitious, man. Like, well, where does that come from? I'm like, honestly, it just comes from a place of just wanting to figure things out.
Yeah.
You know? And we started talking and everything, and we exchanged info. The next day he calls me. I'm like, why are you calling me? Like, why? Like, bro, it's cool. We're cool and everything, but like, why are you calling me? And he's like,
what was the scheme for?
you know Amway?
No.
So basically, I'm not even gonna get into all that with Amway, but essentially, like, imagine like paying someone to do their business for them.
Okay.
And then it's like paying into a credit system that you don't really benefit from, but you have to put all the work in for.
Oh.
Essentially.
Yeah, that's a pyramid scheme.
Exactly,
for sure.
right? Yeah. And so I remember like the first time that they tried to get me with this was 4 years ago. The same company. Yeah, the first time. And
after you.
No, like the dude, I met him at the gym. They literally have people everywhere.
That's scary.
Bookstores.
That's scary.
Like gyms everywhere.
Wait, this guy just walked up to you?
Yeah.
Oh god.
And so the first time the dude was in the sauna, and like we were sitting in the sauna chilling, and it's funny because one of their tactics is they usually ask people about their shoes. He's like, because it's like one of those like lighthearted things that no one ever really thinks about. But the crazy part is, we were in the sauna, I asked him about his shoes. And I'm sitting here probably thinking in his head, like, he's fucking perfect. I need him now.
They have trackers on you. That's why you got someone sent to you the other day.
No, and so it was funny because one of the guys I was working with at the time was like my age now.
Yeah.
And they had tried that with him. And so he'd asked me, he's like, did this guy ask you about your shoes? I was like, no, I asked him about his. He was like, oh, he probably thought you were perfect. He was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm like, I was starting conversation with people, you know, like, and so.
That's so good for you. Just talking to people, though.
I'm trying to, but then I realized, I'm like, dang, like, you can't just have a good conversation with somebody, you know, without them, like, I mean, you can, you know, because I was thinking, I was like, I had this great conversation with you that day.
Yeah.
And then I met somebody else, and I'm like, oh, well. Damn, like I'm thinking like we're gonna have a good talk about belief systems and, you know, and when we talk about ambition, I mean ambition's more than just money, you know.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that was the biggest thing for me is like he came to me and saw the money grab, and I'm like, bro, I'm sitting here with an astrology book and a Christianity book open, like for me personally, I mean obviously we all want to be financially stable, you know, but in the sense of in a sense of just learning the knowledge I want to learn and accumulating the knowledge, it's not really I'm not looking to grab for external, you know, it's more of just kind of a thing of kind of what can I do to also help, but also how can I can't make people feel anything, but how can I give people a better sense of satisfaction and gratification? Yeah. You know, if I can help in any kind of way.
I'm so glad I married somebody that has a good concept of money and the complexity of it, because when I think about money, I feel like you think a lot like me. It's just kind of like I feel like we're Pisces, Bethany. I'm in another world sometimes. Like money is this complex. To me, it's just like money in, money out, and he thinks about oh, this money could go here. We could use this. He understands credit and debit. I'm going to sound stupid even trying to talk about this, so I'm going to stop.
We were in accounting class together, too.
Oh, poor. Whoever our teacher was, we're sorry.
I don't remember her name, but I fell asleep so much in that class.
Someone was talking about geometry the other day, and I was like, oh, please stop.
Triggered you?
I'm going to gag.
It trigonometry you?
I never took that.
No.
No way. Wait, is that a part of geometry?
I mean, trig and geometry go hand in hand, I think. I have no idea. I didn't take trigonometry either. I didn't even take calculus. The first time I saw calculus was my freshman year of college, and I made a 30 on that final.
Oh, calculus is so... It has a special place. It didn't matter. I used to say it didn't matter how bad any of my relationships ever were, how they ended up, how the breakups happened. Nothing will be as bad as my relationship with math. Nothing.
Really?
Numbers, it doesn't.
It doesn't compute?
No.
When I understood derivatives, I was like, what? And when you realize like, it was the same thing.
I wish I was good at math.
I've downloaded a bunch of math apps on my phone just to kind of get better.
Like simple math stuff?
Simple math, but also like just learning like simple calculus. Because I'm like, I've never understood this. You know, I'm like, there's things I understand very easily.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why can't I understand this very easily?
I wish math just clicked in my head. Like my brother's really good at math and science, and his brain thinks like, and I hate thinking like that. I think some point really young I got a mental block of like, this is hard, I can't do it. And there have been some really satisfying moments, like even in specific subjects in math where I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And I just wish it was like that for more subjects in math.
And same way for me, there was parts of math. Yeah. It wasn't that there were parts that like I got like that.
Yeah.
Especially with calculus, because the one part that everybody struggled with that I just got off the rip was limits.
Oh, limits are...
I would just be able to look at it and just see what it's doing and be like, yeah, the limit's right there. And they're like, well, like, just look at it. Like, and then you put numbers in front of me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And it's just all. But then also like, remember how they taught us about matrices and stuff?
Yeah.
When you think about the matrix,
like the simulation matrix.
Yeah, the matrices. It's all a little bit in that. That's the part of science in math I'm kind of getting like into with like I guess human interaction, because like I said earlier about how people have things that they act on and don't act on.
Yeah.
What causes that? Probability.
I say probably a lot for someone who doesn't understand probability.
Exactly, but everything is about probability.
No.
You know?
Everything is math.
Everything is math.
Everything is math. I stretched someone the other day who is a professor of astronomy. And she bought a membership, so I'm going to see her again. I am so excited for her and me to just be buddies. We hit it off. She was awesome. She just seems really cool. She told me a funny joke. She was like, because I was like, all right, I got an astronomer right here. I've got to ask her about astronomy. Like, what is up with astronomy? And she was like, astrology. So I was like, so I feel like I have to ask you if you're an astronomer. Like, do you follow astrology? And I didn't press too hard because I feel like she has this conversation with everybody. But she was like, nah. I was like, all right. So if the astronomer doesn't practice and follow astrology, I feel better about not leaning into it too much. But I'm excited to kind of pick her brain a little bit about stars and planets. And she seems just cool.
Well, especially with astronomy, because you talked about geometry too. And someone told me something that changed my brain on geometry in general. And geometry is not the study of shapes. It's the study of how things connect.
That's deep.
Yeah. I was like, whoa. You know, and just how things connect at both an angle. And then you have a circle which has no angles at all.
But it's connected.
But it's connected all the way through. And but then you think about pi, 3.14. And it's constantly going. Pi never ends.
It weirds me out. Numbers
You know,
weird me out.
exactly.
They really do.
Because like you talk about circle of
Yeah.
life. Everything is just a circle and a cycle
Yeah.
of this, and it's like we keep doing this over and over and
Yeah.
over, you know. But also that makes a zero. The circle is a zero.
Do you have any tattoos?
The Pisces tattoo.
Did you do it yourself?
Yes, actually.
I also have a tattoo that I did myself.
Oh,
It's
yin
a-
and yang.
It's a yin and yang.
I mean, it's just Pisces as well, honestly. Like, it's literally two koi fish swimming in opposite directions.
Yeah.
Just a, like, polarity kind of thing.
Yeah. I got a tattoo gun during COVID.
Hey.
And I thought I was going to be a tattoo artist.
Really?
I don't know. It would have been a fun, like, side gig.
Honestly? I couldn't see you having many tattoos. Would you want tattoos?
I have. I did this one. It's supposed to be the sword of the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
but it also kind of looks like a cross.
A little bit.
It's really faded, and every tattoo artist in Bryan College Station is like, I don't do finger tats. It's not worth my time and money. And I'm like, please help me. Do you see what I did on my finger? I need help. Please.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I have so many cool tattoo like ideas. I wish I would have had this epiphany after I got all my tattoos that I wanted. But kind of on this like thinking about identity and like what I'm putting energy into and finding my identity, I have always just clung so tightly onto like things that I wear and like I hate being misunderstood, and so I feel like I'm constantly trying to explain myself to people, and not really, that's not the right words. I don't explain myself to people because
We're Pisces.
I could care less sometimes what people think, but other times I'm like, I just don't want to be misunderstood. And so I feel like I press so hard to make myself known, and like that's where this like mindset change has come with like talking with Yahweh and like understanding him and spending time with him is like, I don't need to show people myself. I need to show people God and the God that is giving me peace and joy. Like I'm just a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've come to this like conclusion that the best thing to do for my psyche is probably not personalize my body. I think I really like, I hang on to it. Like I want to personalize myself in a way and put something permanent, this art that I think is cool, this art that I think would be funny. Like I just want to express myself. And in that train of thought, that's not the belief system I'm trying to follow. I don't want to give myself, I want to give God. And so I had a list of tattoos that were really cool and that I wanted, but now that I had that epiphany, I don't think I can like consciously get a tattoo anymore. But I got my yin and yang to hold on to.
You know what I'm saying? You can't get rid of it.
I know. Sometimes I look down at it and I'm like,
There's a lot of worse tattoos you could have gotten.
it's true.
Also very worse spots too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the leg's one of those spots that people really don't see unless
Yeah.
you want them to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing with
Conversation starter too.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And going back to how you can read people, like sometimes you just look at people's tattoos they have on their body and it'll tell you everything about them.
It's true.
You know?
I love my husband wants a sleeve. I'm going to draw it for him.
Really?
I'm really excited. He's a big like nature guy.
Mm-hmm.
He Redwood? Is that in California? The
Yeah,
really
like-
big trees.
Mm-hmm.
He's together with his grandma all the time, so he wants like
Those are huge ass trees.
I want to go so bad. I think waterfalls are cool because they're ginormous and huge. I don't know what I would do if I was next to a tree that big. I might cry. Honestly, I probably would cry.
Be in awe, honestly.
Yeah.
You sit there and be in awe of like, just like, God damn, like a 50.
And how long have they been there?
How tall do they get again? They're like 100, 200 feet high. But it really is their diameter of their trunk.
Yeah,
That's
like driving.
crazy.
I think there's one that's specifically on like either side of a road,
Redwood.
and like you can drive through the tree.
redwood trees. Sequoia, also known as redwoods. Let's see. Hold on. Redwood trees height. Here we go. 300. God damn. 300 feet high.
I don't even know how tall is that?
Kyle Field is maybe about 100 feet high. I would say, yeah, because I'd say 7 stories to get to the very top. You're talking like, I was thinking like a 10-story building. 10 story. This is a 2-story building right here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then think this times 15.
So do we have skyscrapers that are like?
Yeah, I would say like
Close to that height?
hold on, like Empire, like Empire State Building. Think about like that one. So Empire State Building.
That's gonna be like thousands of feet, right?
Probably. Height. So. Yeah, like okay, yeah. From floor to the top. Okay, better comparison, which is actually crazy because it's actually not that big of a statue. The Statue of Liberty is 305 feet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Statue of Liberty?
I saw it when I was in New York. It was actually not that breathtaking.
I've heard that about the Eiffel Tower. People are like, it wasn't that great.
You know, like I saw it and I was like, it was really like a, that's it? like I'm looking at the skyline of New York and I'm like, this is beautiful. And I look over the Statue of Liberty, I'm like,
who are you?
It's like that big? Like you just gotta do that. And you get up next to it, it's like, I could have swore this was bigger in the pictures, you know? And it's like, it's really not all that. It was a good ferry ride.
I think I have seen it on the ferry. But again, I was trying to take a picture with it, but it's like this big in the distance. So
it's like
I didn't even get a good picture with it.
It was like a Statue of
I might as well just go get the toy at the shop and pose with it.
They're the same size, honestly. If you're being real. How was New York for you?
I went for my 16th birthday. I don't know, at the height of my teenage angst, being in New York with my mom was...
Just you and your mom?
No, it was me and my mom and my mom's friend and her daughter. So one of my like high school childhood best friends. We went and it was fun. I don't remember a lot about it. I block out a lot of stuff from my sophomore year of high school.
There's like little memory blocks here and there. Personally put there sometimes.
Yeah, but it was a fun trip. We went and saw a Broadway show. That was definitely a trip where I realized the difference between like, because I was like, what really is the difference between like a high school theater show and like a Broadway show? And
the production is
it's crazy,
stellar.
There's so many like jobs and people doing.
And the sets are so intricate.
Oh, it was beautiful.
The sets are so intricate. The actors.
The singing.
Well, also, they're like, you got to keep in mind, everything they do is a tryout.
Yeah.
For Hollywood.
That's true.
You know? Like every time they sing, every time they act, anytime they do anything on stage, they're thinking the show must go on.
Yeah.
But also, you got to put your best foot forward because of who might be watching.
Yeah.
You know, same way with athletes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, we talked about getting recruited too as well.
Yeah.
And like, and you talked about playing, going back to play a little bit. Volleyball, getting your athletic prowess back.
Yeah, I think I am. I've been venturing into pickleball.
Pickleball, really?
I love pickleball. It's
really
so fun.
It's like, that's the one with like the skinnier rackets and everything.
No, that's what is that called? Racquetball?
Racquetball? Okay.
Wiffle ball?
What's the difference between pickleball and...
Pickleball is like giant ping pong.
Oh.
Pickleball is like a cross between tennis and ping pong.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun. It's so like
Wait,
satisfying.
is it like the one where you're like in the room? It's like almost
that's
like
racquetball for sure.
Oh, that's racquetball.
I know that one.
So then...
What is the one with the racket that you're talking about? Badminton.
Badminton, yes.
Yeah.
With the little like...
Yeah, the little birdie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, it's called birdie.
I don't even know how to play badminton.
It's pretty fun. It has a badminton and pickleball kind of remind me of each other. Except badminton's kind of hard.
Because wasn't pickleball, like, they used to hit pickles in each other's mouths?
I'm not familiar with
the
that
origin?
one.
I don't know.
I actually don't know the origin of pickleball.
Why we got Google? It's the power of Google. Hold on. Pickleball. I need to get this on here. Pickleball. Hold on.
You should come play. It's really fun, actually.
Okay, so yeah, it's like little small. So okay, so small like wiffle size ping
Yeah,
pong ball wiffle
you
size.
pay with
Okay.
a wiffle ball, so the one that has the holes in it,
Mhm.
and you got these big wooden paddles,
But you're on a tennis court.
but it's a smaller tennis court.
Oh. Huh.
So you're not running around as much. You don't get any tennis elbow because you're not like whacking it as hard as you can because it's like it's a wiffle ball. Like there's not much you can do with it. It's just a nice. They have one. Have you ever been to Carney's?
I think so.
They have a. It's like a bar and grill, but they have a pickleball court outside. So me and my community group will just go and like drink, eat dinner, and play pickleball together. It's so fun.
It's a good time. You might have to get me into badminton and pickleball.
Yeah.
Pickleball podcast.
Recreational sports.
Yeah. No, there was a football, like a 5v5 league that people were getting, and I was like, that sounds great. And I remember I woke up and my foot like popped. I was like, yeah, no, we can't do this. I mean, I can, but it's like I shouldn't do this.
I'm nervous. I'm playing volleyball on Monday. I need to like do something this weekend
need
to
to
like get ready.
Do your own stretching.
I know. I need to put myself on the schedule.
How long has it been since you set a ball or done anything like volleyball related?
I did open gym, which was very competitive.
Really?
At one of the churches, they have like a open gym like night. It was late too, but it was so much fun. That was like months ago. That was way before my wedding in April. Honestly, that might have been like before Christmas break. So like before I graduated. It's been a while. Not like years or anything, but definitely a few months.
So you're going to have a little bit of volleyball court rust on you?
Yeah, I need to go like break into
Was there a lot of footwork that was involved in volleyball?
Yeah, some of it. It's all like fast twitch muscles.
So what was your position?
I did a few different things. So I started playing volleyball in like 5th grade, and I played outside hitter, so front row stuff in high school most of the time. And then on a few different select teams, I did both. I did back row and front row. And then when I thought I was going to play in college, I was like, I'm not 6 foot. I need to start training strictly back row stuff. So I started training for like libero defensive positions, and it just didn't happen.
I was about to say liberos are usually the ones that run all over the place and stuff.
Yeah, they got the different colored jersey on and everything. Honestly, I'm so glad I didn't do college sports. I was a manager for the volleyball team, and like, it's just not for me. I didn't realize how much I was in it for the fun. Yeah.
And that's one of those things, like, we're all in it for something.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't realize how much I was in it for the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And, like, just being able to just have someone that going through the same thing you're going through.
Yeah.
And then just the bond you build with them just off of that, you know?
Yeah.
And then you do everything together. I mean, you literally you hurt yourself together. You bleed together, you know?
Yeah.
You lose games and cry together, you know? And so, like, that's why, like, a lot of even when I played in JUCO for a little bit, a lot of those guys I met back there is, like, those are connections that I, like, won't forget, you know? Especially that's one of the times, like, my freshman year of college, of stepping into something in which you're in a whole new environment. You don't know anybody. You have to learn. You have to make a whole new set of friends.
College experience.
You know, and it's just like,
I love it.
And you realize, like, how many people, I say that, but, like, how much making friends and talking to people is actually a skill.
Yeah.
You know, because some people actually don't have that, you know?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And, like, kind of like we talked about with communication and stuff like that, of how people communicate with each other.
I remember college was so, like, I just loved it. There were so many random, and I always felt so safe because it's my hometown. Like, I always felt like I was branching out, but never, like, too much.
Yeah.
But
there's like a leash on you a little bit, but it's your own leash.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was like, I would just find myself at lunch with one person that I knew, and the rest of the table was a bunch of random people that were just friends of friends, and we're all here at the same time, and you sit next to them and get to know them. Even though, and so many people I never saw again. So many people I sat down and had an experience with, whether it was like going out, eating lunch together, you never see him.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was not convinced that one of my like college best friends, his roommate, like transferred after our freshman year, and I low-key was like, I don't think he existed. I think we all made him up. I think he was just a collective conscious being of
that we all kind of.
But we have pictures of him and stuff, so I wasn't that serious.
Okay.
But like,
it's like you look back at the pictures, he's not there and shit. It's like what? So
but like he just disappeared and he's off doing something else, and we have no idea. It's crazy. And we were so close. We spent every day with him.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok about that, and if of all people saying this, it was an Andrew Tate TikTok.
Oh.
But what he said was, he was talking about how imagine being in love with someone, and then you never saw them again.
That happens all the time.
Exactly, but especially nowadays too, when we're in the age of you can just go on Instagram or Facebook and just look somebody up and just know what they've been up to. But then imagine like back in a time where you just didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
Of where you knew somebody, and then once they're gone, they're just gone.
Yeah.
And there's really no sense of getting them back. I mean, some people,
yeah.
Everybody's different. You know what I mean? I mean, some people get left, and some get left in a spot of like, well, what do I do now? But then going back to like, there's more. I guess like.
It's gotta be so bad for our mental. I know it is.
Well, just the idea of having so many options. You know what I mean? So many options for everything.
In story, we all know too much about each other.
Yeah. So to a degree, yeah. And I think to a degree, we know too much of the wrong things about each other. Maybe. That's true.
Because I feel like if we were all just super vulnerable and like knew everything about each other, it'd be so much easier to like understand everybody. But like, I think you're right. Like, kind of like social media, you see the best part of everybody. I'm like, that's not what's really going on.
I think to talk about just like a society thing is kind of like what the best foot forward as it is nowadays is a lot of negative connotation,
Yeah.
Not that it just inherently is bad.
Yeah.
But again, it has a charge to it. It has a certain charge to it, You can tell when things are positive or negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that, like I said, we put our best foot forward, but what is the best foot? What is the best foot? For everybody. And some people putting their best foot forward, a lot of people wouldn't like. You know what I mean? And so, and it goes back to the idea of good and bad, right and wrong. Of is there anybody who is right? Is there anybody who is wrong? You know what I mean? Or is it just kind of the nature of the beast kind of thing?
Yeah. These are the questions.
And it's kind of an open-ended question because it's one of those things of like, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep doing me, talking to people on my podcast.
I really like what you do. I think it's cool.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful to have been on the Caleb Jackson podcast.
Well, no,
it's an honor.
And like I told you the other day, you talk so well and you have such a unique perspective on life, and especially having known each other for a while and then, being able to know each other, then grow, come back, and then not only be able to talk to each other like nothing changed, but also a lot changed.
Yeah.
And so it's like we just catch up, and then you see the person they are now, and it's like, wow, you just share perspective, and then there's a like I talked about the collective perspective. You know what I mean? Of like, what are we both seeing?
That's beautiful.
And like I said, like it comes with a level of vulnerability. You know, because I've been in this kind of thing, like some people see people in public and they're like, do I talk? No, do they want to talk to me? Kind of thing.
It's totally a mood thing for me. Like if I'm in the mood to talk, I'm like in their face. I'm like, oh, hey. How are you?
And sometimes you're like,
and then I'm like,
oh, no, I saw them, but hey, might throw like a little like chunk up a deuce or something. But, and then you just kind of go for it. And it's like, oh, well, it turned out well. You know what I mean? And sometimes it might turn out bad, but you just got to go with, again, that's kind of going with the flow too, in a sense of just kind of wherever it leads to. So, I don't know. But then wherever it leads to, you can stop it whenever you can. or whenever you feel like. People have autonomy, and you need to learn that. Well, we need to. We all know that. It's not even a thing to learn. It's that we need to realize it, more or less. You know, it's kind of. I wouldn't say anybody's even in a cycle. So if you're in a cycle yourself that you don't like, break it, kind of thing, or just find a way to break it. It's all looks. It's all perspective. You know, I could be wrong. That's the funny part.
You should call this podcast Perspectives.
I used to.
Really?
This was actually, it's called Perspective with Caleb Jackson.
Cool.
When I first started. But then I had more of an appreciation for my name. And the Caleb Jackson podcast just kind of fit.
It does. It sounds... It got a flow to it.
You know?
It does.
I was like, Caleb Jackson. And for a while, like, the name Caleb, because I always had the connotation that it was like a white kid's name. And I was like... And now I've kind of have more of an appreciation for the name I was given. Because in the Bible, Caleb was sent as a spy to spy on the enemy troops or the enemy. And he came back with nothing but a positive report about what was going on. Yeah. And like, no, we can do this kind of thing. It looks bad, but we can do this.
Caleb, that's really cool.
And so it's kind of like, yeah. It goes back to the thing of purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Last thing to talk about, when it comes to the Bible especially, and with relationships too. Yeah. What was the Proverbs 31? Being a Proverbs 31 woman. And what would you say encompasses being a Proverbs 31 woman?
Can I read it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, pulling out the Bible on the podcast.
I got you. I got astrology books right next to it, too.
I want to hear how that book goes, Real Christianity.
Yeah, I definitely need to get to reading this one. It will help us to be... Yeah, this is like chapter 4, the true standards of Christian behavior, how belief influences behavior.
Wait, have you started reading it?
Not yet. I have to finish. There's a couple books I need to finish before I start a new one. That's one thing I'm working on as well as finishing tasks.
Ooh. I can tell this is going to be good.
You ready?
You want me to read it out loud?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so we're at Proverbs 31.
I didn't mean to turn this into a Bible study, but hey, feel free to join.
Hey, having me on the podcast, I don't think it could go any different, honestly.
I'm here for the good time, honestly.
Okay, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. What should I say, my son? What son of my womb? What son of my vows? Don't spend your energy on women or your efforts on those who destroys kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for... I hope he's saying his name right. It's not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to desire beer. Otherwise, they will forget what is decreed, and pervert justice for all the oppressed. Give beer to one who is dying. Give wine to one whose life is bitter. Let him drink so that he can forget his poverty and remember his trouble no more. Interesting. Speak up for those who have no voice, for the justice of all who are dispossessed. Speak up, judge righteously, and defend the cause of the oppressed and needy. Who can find a capable wife? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard. She is a working woman with her earrings. She draws on her strength and reveals that her arms are strong. She sees that her profits are good. And her lamp never goes out at night, and she extends her hands to the spinning staff, and her hand holds the needle. Her hands reach out to the poor, and she extends her hands to the needy. She is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all her household are doubly clothed. She makes her own bed coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known at the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. and makes and sells linen garments. She delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at time to come. When she opens her mouth, wisdom and loving and instruction. This girl's firing me up. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle. Her sons rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women are capable, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. That's beautiful.
Because when everything you were talking about, I was just
Yeah.
thinking of that running in the back of my head of like Proverbs 31, and it's just, especially when you said about submission and actually being able to be of use. Well, to feel like you're. I hate to say be of use because it sounds so.
It does. It sounds weird.
It sounds so weird, but in a better sense, what would you call it? So I don't say anything bad.
I mean, when I hear all of this, I hear humility. Like, that's something I struggle with. I am such a prideful person. Like, and I don't mean I, like, go around talking about myself. And, there's a difference between courage and being prideful. But, like, I just love thinking about getting down dirty and, like, grinding. Like, I love this passage. Honestly, I don't think I've ever read all the way through. I've definitely heard the, like, the stuff that's on T-shirts, like this end of the chapter, like
paraphrase.
Strength and honor her clothing. She can laugh at days to come. So I've definitely heard that part, but I love the part where it's going through, like, reaching out to the poor. She's talking wisely. It speaks into a standard of doing and being active and being humble about it. And I love the part where it talks about the husband too. Like, the Bible definitely doesn't leave anything out, and it's so good. Like, the living word is, sometimes people don't give it credit for fitting into society nowadays, but if you give it the time to just speak to you and your personal understanding of it.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, I went through that little I say trial. We'll call it a trial.
Yeah.
But I went through that trial of getting away from it, know, and now I'm coming back to it, and in a way that I never thought I would.
Yeah.
'Cause I always thought it would be a thing of, I'm gonna go back to church and but I always used to think, like, I'm gonna go back to church and I'm gonna go see this church and I might not agree with it and then just go back to what I'm doing. But then also getting to the heart of the church, the Bible, the word of what it's saying before you get back into going to church, you know?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's what, like, I've gotten to that point now where I'm like, I used to say, like, because, like, it used to be like people are just shoving this way of being down my throat, and I just inherently know it's not right, and so you become deviant.
Yeah.
And because something wasn't taught to you in the right way.
Yeah.
It's not because this doesn't hold any correct meaning. It's not because it's wrong or anything.
Yeah.
But it might be just a thing of, like, there's a different way to look at it.
Yeah. And it's all about that, for me at least. Christianity is that personal relationship, like understanding what Jesus did, understanding what God did, and understanding how you fit into all of that, and that's cool. I think I love what you said about the Bible being, like, the heart of, like, because truthfully, like, this is where you meet God. Like, this is where the living word is speaking to you, Caleb Jackson, you personally, and your experiences. I'm doing the Bible in a year right now, and it has been so, like, Old Testament stuff, crazy stuff. I've heard the stories, but, like,
when you think about the lessons and, like,
oh my gosh, the family, the genealogy, all of it's so crazy, and through all of it, God's in control. But to answer your question about this, so that I can let you go on with your life tonight, I do think that, like, I feel empowerment. Like, I read this chapter and I'm like, I'm so, like, honored to worship a God who has this message for me. You know, I'd have to look into Proverbs. Like, I have no idea who's talking right now. Like, what is an oracle? Like, I'm going to dig into this more. But
oracle. Ooh, I was thinking about that the other day. 'Cause I was like, what's the definition of an oracle, too?
it's like a prophet, kind of, right?
In a sense.
They probably just said prophet.
Oracle. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Let's see. Oracle. Okay. How about the oracle definition of the company? Definition.
I'm so
a priest
excited.
or priestess acting as a medium through whom advice or prophecy was sought from the gods in a classical antiquity.
See, what are we getting into?
It's a mixture of everything, really.
There's just so much to know and understand.
And like to a degree, there's like a level of where like I gotta stop trying to know and just be who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and a little bit to everybody too. You know, be as you are, be who you are. Because I think Bethany and I would agree that God made us all the way we're supposed to be.
Yeah, you did.
You know.
I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna shut this.
This was like, believe it or not, how long do you think this podcast has been?
Honestly, it's felt like 30 minutes.
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah. I can keep going, especially if we keep talking about.
This is why I do this. You know, because
I can see this is like
time disappears.
Yeah.
You know, because you're just talking. You're present in something else other than just yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why like I tell people to always go outside and go talk to somebody else. You know, say hi to somebody, have a conversation with someone who you've never ever spoken to before. You know what I mean? And I think that just makes it even. Everything nowadays that we get shown just makes it even more of a daunting thought to go out there and just interact with random people. Yeah. You know? I don't know.
Thank God we had an interaction.
That's what I'm saying.
Now I'm here.
Yeah. Thank God we're selling clothes.
Right. Thank God we're trying to make money.
You know what I'm saying?
God provides.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to end the podcast off is God will provide. Always. But do you have anything you want to plug in here at all? Any social media, anything?
No.
No?
I got rid of social media. Actually, that's a lie. I do have a social media. But it's like for my mom and like my aunts that don't live in the same city as me. I couldn't. It was too much pressure to like perform. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother topic.
For next time. Yes, thank you for coming on this podcast to talk to me.
Thanks for having me.
And then, yes, tune in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also follow the podcast. And send me any suggestions on what you want us to talk about, or just keep listening. Until then, be easy and be yourself. Peace.